A warning, the images are disturbing and graphic, a testament to the violence of prison life and what happened between two men who both claim to be doing God's work, each with their own sins and secrets.
As prisons go, the Minnesota Correctional Facility in Rush City has a reputation as a relatively quiet and trouble-free joint, home to 1,000 inmates, and at one time, one religious cult leader, Victor Barnard. That is until Barnard would encounter a reckoning no one ever saw coming.
Wake up, there's evil out there. That wasn't a human being that was in pain, that was evil that was in pain.
The story of Victor Barnard begins in rural Pine County, where Barnard was the leader of a religious group, the River Road Fellowship, with about 140 followers. Barnard surrounding himself with a group of young women and girls known as the Maidens, taking them on as surrogate wives. Barnard sexually abusing at least two of the girls, beginning when they were only 14 years old.
I remember he seemed very intense.
My young impressions of him was he was a scary person because he yelled a lot and I was afraid of him.
The cult operated for more than a decade in Minnesota in relative secrecy until a Fox 9 investigation.
It's a big story tonight. Our Tom Lydon broke this story.
It led to an international manhunt for Barnard, who was eventually captured in Brazil. He was found guilty on 53 counts of sexual assault and sent to prison for 24 years. But at Rush City, there was yet one more grisly chapter to unfold. January 8th, 2017, Victor Barnard is inside cell 206. But focus your attention on this man who just walked into the unit and sat down. His name is Shane Kringen, and he told us recently in a prison interview he had a beef with Barnard.
I do what I need to do on a day-to-day basis to survive. And Victor Barnard put me in a position to where I had to go confront him. Otherwise, my own safety and my own ability to live within the walls of a prison environment were in jeopardy.
Kringen says Barnard would constantly stare him down, even attracting the attention of other inmates. Barnard's reputation as a cult leader and sex offender had preceded him to Rush City. Word quickly got around, and Barnard had taken over religious services inside the prison.
You thought Victor Barnard was dangerous.
I think he's one of the most evil people I've ever met in my life. He's evil personified. He used God as a weapon and continues to use God as a weapon. The only reason why Victor Barnard's upset today as he sits in a prison cell is because he got caught.
On that day in the cell block, another inmate will come up to Kringen. They'll talk for a few seconds. That inmate will then leave and take Barnard's cellmate with him. 12 seconds later, Shane Kringen walks into cell 206 and shuts the door. He will come out by himself 40 seconds later. 4 minutes after that, a guard will make the rounds. She'll open cell 206 to find a shocking and bloody scene. Security is quickly called, and so is a medical team. Victor Barnard has been brutally assaulted. He's barely conscious, struggling to breathe, and unable to tell them what just happened. His injuries will include facial fractures and cuts, broken ribs, a punctured lung, and a traumatic brain injury.
I didn't go in there with the intent to beat him brainless. I went in there with the intent to deal with his behavior, to stop singling me out. Other people were looking at me going, hey, Barnard's looking at you, what's going on?
Kringen claims Barnard made the first move and even tried to bite off his finger.
When he had his hand in his pocket like this, and he jumps up like this, in a dark room like that, that's a sign of aggression. You don't have time to contemplate. You don't have time to leave. There's 2 steps, literally almost the distance that we were just now, was how quick Barnard was in my face. And yes, I reacted. But it shows in the report I was in there for seconds, not a long period of time wailing on this guy. That was not my intent. You know, did he get hurt? Yeah. Do I regret it? No, not even remotely. I sleep good at night.
The absence of any remorse would become obvious as Kringen talked to friends on the outside. His calls recorded as he referred to Barnard as a chomo, prison slang for child molester.
That's the only one I got pending right now. The fight for beating up chomo.
Okay. And honestly, I think they should buy you dinner for that one.
Dinner, girlfriend for the night, steak dinner, something.
But instead of a steak dinner, Kringen, who was a short-timer, only looking at a couple more years, was now facing another decade behind bars.
Shane Kringen was charged with assaulting Victor Barnard, but when the case went to trial last August, there was one more surprise. Victor Barnard was a no-show, either because he was unable or unwilling to testify. And with no one to refute Kringen's claim that the assault was in self-defense, he was acquitted of all charges.
For his own protection, Barnard was moved to an undisclosed prison out of state and claimed to have no memory of the attack.
Do you remember anything what happened that day?
I just don't want to answer questions right now because I don't even remember anything.
Okay.
The last thing that you remember was being in Brazil, right? Do you remember going to prison?
That I remember briefly, but mostly in Brazil.
Okay, so you don't remember coming to U.S. jail?
In fact, Barnard is under the false impression that he was assaulted by a prison guard.
Aren't you trying to protect him now?
Why would I protect him?
I don't know.
No, he's going to be held accountable for what he did.
Kringen doesn't buy it.
Victor Barnard is currently, under my understanding, trying to reduce his sentence through claiming mental illness. And if he was to show up and be found competent at a trial for testimony, he couldn't continue to play the manipulation game to save his own hide for his child molesting ways. So that's why Victor Barnard didn't want to show up and testify.
Kringen believes the entire assault was a setup, that Barnard planned it and baited him, so Barnard would be moved to a segregated unit or out of state. And despite the sequence of events that day, Kringen claims no other inmates had advanced knowledge of the assault. Now serving his time at Oak Park Heights, a maximum security prison, he admits he found fans afterwards.
I had $25 sent to me all the way from, the Carolinas, complete stranger. And, he said something about doing God's work.
Did other inmates give you pats on the back for assaulting Victor Barnard?
There were smiles, and we don't exactly run around patting each other on the back in a maximum security prison, so.
But in terms of your reputation inside a prison setting.
Was it a rep builder? I didn't need a rep builder. And I'm not saying that cocky, I'm just saying I am who I am. I don't lift weights, I lift stacks.
As you might have guessed by now, Shane Kringen is no angel. He has 12 felony convictions to his name for drugs, assault, and ironically, for sex with an underage girl. And yet it's Kringen who claims the moral high ground after nearly killing a man who said he spoke for God.
Look, I'm going to say this as clearly as I can. Victor Barnard is a master manipulator of unprecedented scale. Victor Barnard had an agenda, and he only miscalculated in one area and one area only. When he picked out the person that he was going to have a confrontation with, he picked the wrong person. He picked me.
Kringen is set to be released from prison later this year, but he will need to face prior charges in Wisconsin for assaulting jail staff. We reach out to Victor Barnard, as we always do, but he never responds. And at this point, he's exhausted all of his appeals. You may wonder what the survivors of Barnard's abuse think about his prison assault. One of them, Lindsay Ternambi, watched the video and told us it was upsetting to see the care Barnard received from prison staff. She said the assault does not compare to the pain she suffered all those years and what she still deals with every day.
So what happened to all of Victor Barnard's followers? Do they still believe in him?
I think that's a very good question. We reached out to about a half dozen of his former followers. We also talked to law enforcement here and in Washington, where many of the members went to. The River Road Fellowship really fell apart when Barnard left Minnesota for Washington State. But when he went to prison, what was left of the group, we are told, just evaporated. There are still several individuals who are loyal to him, a couple of families, but there's